Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It's really my great pleasure and honor to introduce today's speaker, Professor Masanori Fukushima. He's my old friend. He's the Professor Emeritus in Kyoto University, and also currently is the Director and Chairman, Translational Research Institute, and is the Foundation for Biomedical Research Innovation at Kobe. Professor Fukushima, in the past 30 years, actually, he's dedicated himself to disseminate the standard cancer care and also reform of the Japan care system. Actually, he is the key person who contributed to establish the infrastructure of translational research and also the clinical trial in whole Japan. He helped to establish 12 ARO, we called Academic Research Organization in Japan. They chose the medical university in 12 place in Japan and make that as an anchor place, and to establish that local area. Many teaching hospital and university engage in that ARO and develop the translational research clinical trial, and also promote the industrialization in the biotech development. So currently, he is also very actively involved the harmonization and also the international collaboration. So very honored that he can come today. He's going to talk about the road to total disease control, regenerative medicine as an ultimate of precision medicine principle, present, state, and scope. That give him a great applause.
Thank you, Pancho. I would like to first express my cordial thanks to Professor Yan and Professor Wu inviting me such a great summer camp in very beautiful forest. It's really great honor. I respect Professor Utayu. He's like as Professor Yukawa in our country. So I'm originally a biochemist, and I'm a first medical oncologist in Japan. So my career of medical oncology and cancer biology is spanning 40 years. I'm very happy to be here today, and most glad to talk about today's topic on ultimate precision medicine, because regenerative medicine uses usually your own stem cells. So stem cells treat or cure the disease of your cells. So this is ultimate precision medicine. I think so. And what is regenerative medicine? Right now, I just said, but today I would like to focus on the principles and practices based on our published papers. First, before my talk, I would like to share the spirit of learning with you all. This ancient Chinese literature. Learning through whole life without stopping, and practices what you have learned, staying enlightenment. Second, I learned this at the front lobby of Academia Sinica in Taipei. First is the virtue, second, achievement, and then comes the words. I like this words, and always keep in mind this was for learning and practice. Today's talk constitutes of 6 chapters. The first is introduction. We are living in unprecedented revolutionary age of science and technology. It is said that this is the 4th industrial revolution, but it is not like the past. It is accelerating day by day, and I think you believe, I believe you are feeling and recognize what's happening and changing the world right now. Next, very briefly, I will introduce our institute, TRI, Translational Research Center for Medical Innovation, and what we have done during 15 years since our establishment, very briefly. Then I will lead you to the science of regenerative medicine in chapter 3. In chapter 3, I will introduce the philosophy of biology mainly, and chapter 4 is the principles of regenerative medicine. Chapter 5, the practices based on our articles. I will introduce stem cell therapies and tissue engineering. And finally, I will summarize today's talk by suggesting our next mission under global vision. This slide summarizes the revolutions, what's happened right now. I picked up 5 domains of revolution now accelerating. First is genome and immunology. I think it's make totally renew the landscape of medicine and healthcare. Of course, then stem cells. Next generation of therapy will come from the research of exosomes and microRNAs. Third is robotics and brain-machine interface and brain-computer interface. This technology comes from and developed further frontier, nanotechnology in terms of sensing technology. And fifth, AI. So we are now living in singularity age. Our future is in our hand. We have serious responsibility of the future of human being. Without deep consideration of science, you may take wrong way in your life. What is the science and what is technology? We need rigorous thinking, meticulous thinking, careful insight to the both. Science defined to observe the interrelation of things and cause effect in the universe as it is. Describe and explain exactly what you have recognized. Observe and describe and explain. Each category of action is very, very difficult if you think carefully. And as it is the most difficult, because looking and understand and capture the nature and things is depending on totally in your sensing mechanisms and thinking mechanisms and the past experience. So in Nature editorial, very good phrase there was, very good was, scientists explore the world as it is, rather than as they would like it to be. as they would like it to be is the technology's domain. So Science editorial says, and announced this message when the James Watson, the discoverer of double-strand structure with click, he said, during the campaign of his book, he said, the African's future is dismal, dark, because their genomics. Genomically, Africans' future is dark, he said. So Nature said, scientists explore the world as it is, rather than as they would like it to be. Keep in mind this word seriously. So when we look at the human history, the past, we can easily grasp what mankind was doing. Question is, what are we doing and for what? For what? This is the question most important. Look at this slide. We should make it clear that science and technology is different. Science is neutral. Technology is sometimes evil, sometimes it's beneficial for humans. Typical example is this formula. The most important and famous formula, so-called the formula of God. As you know, it is the formula indicating equality of energy and material. When you use this knowledge as a technology, you can produce atomic bomb, and thus the world changed totally. And when we look at the history of mankind, it is said science should be used for peace. But look at the atomic electronic reactor, atomic electronic generation. Is it really safe? Beneficial for humanity? We must remind that great earthquake in Sendai, Tohoku, and Fukushima in 2011, which was a big disaster. Still, people cannot go back to their home at Fukushima area. The use of such technology is beneficial at the beginning, maybe, but later, many years later, the technology transformed to bothersome problems. There is medical example, a lot of medical example. Gene engineering food. Gene engineering food. Wheat is now 99% gene engineered, and it produces allergy patients in tremendous number of people over the world, including me. Such use of technology is very difficult problem. What is the value of the technology? Then, what is the value? What is the real benefit? What is the real happiness? It is a question. Yes, it is a philosophical question. Thereby, now we realize the definition of ethics like this. You can see that Raphael's picture, Aristotle and Plato. Plato is the teacher of Aristotle. And he both he direct upper side, and Aristotle look at the ground. Essential knowledge to solve various problems affecting human health, and the methodology to generate them. This is the definition of clinical science. To clarify necessary and adequate measures and roadmaps to achieve desired goal, and to implement them strategically. This is the definition of clinical science. So, clinical science, very shortly, by human, science by human, for human, of the human. You can understand the characteristics of science inherits technology because the clinical science commit to human health. So, for the perspective, we must ask your own mind, for what? Always address this question, for what? Then we now define R&D, research and development and regulatory science. You must deeply perceive the purpose as I deem them our mission. What is our mission or obligation? What mission do you hold in mind, and which way do you walk throughout your life? Before discussing R&D or regenerative medicine, we must understand the difference of science and technology built in what you have already learned. Scientists explore the world as it is, but technology and businesses act to the world as they would like it to be. Wisdom and ethics are seriously addressed. R&D, research and development, is not generally so-called research, but is a legal process under the law. In medical healthcare field is pharmaceutical affairs law. You carry out research and development, in other words, translational research, under supervision by the regulatory agency. Taiwan FDA. It's equivalent to US FDA and PMDA in Japan. This is a definition of regulatory science. In next slide, regulatory science requires a state-of-the-art scientific rigor at the time based on humanity. So it's based on the humanity. This is very important. Why I addressed ethics and science and technologies, which should be managed and guaranteed by the law. So then we have to look at the business, the party of business, which core industry, pharmaceutical company or device industry. Without such sectors, we have no mean of delivery, dissemination of products, which is the achievement of science, our most interested area. Now we have to think about the critical difference of academic, non-commercial, and commercial-based industry. The difference between academia and industry party of business in terms of purpose and basis of activity. In the academic sector, we always look at patients and disease control. This is the logic and ethics of medicine, healthcare for the party section of academia. But when we look at the industry side, business side, the landscape is totally changed, opposite to the value is profit, have to make money. It is a logic and also the ethic of capitalism. I would like to ask you which party you would like to belong to in future, to devote your life through daily life activity. This theme is essential contradiction. Look at the world of research and development, innovation, where terrible competitions, researcher and industry and industry. Terrible big competition. The question is, can we achieve a mutual goal? Disease control through the existing economic system, free market world of capitalism. So I think for total disease control, including rare diseases, usually industry side, business side do not look at rare disease. The market size is so small, there is no profit for us. Industry side always says. But today I would like to only point out that it is the time that we need novel approach and theory to generate new age. I'd like to repeat this slide of science revolution. In medical and healthcare science technology, we are living the age of tremendous innovation of science and technology. So you can see the Janus photograph, Roman god. So look at the history, past, and look at the future. So this is a classification of innovation type. Professor Schumpeter, a giant economic scientist, he divided 5 categories of innovation will occur: material, manufacture, production, product, distribution. So when you look at world, society, you use Google, Apple, and Facebook. This is all final distribution phase. In the past, the major company, GE and GM and Ford, or something like that. The landscape of industry and society is changed. Look at the material. Shale oil changed the world. In the United States, they do not necessarily depend on Iran, Iraq. This is changed the world. When you look at the manufacture, you remind your mind the 3D manufacturing processing. That's why we can say we are now living fourth unprecedented revolutionary age, totally changed. This is Schumpeter's classification. For example, drugs, the innovation in drug completely change our image of therapeutics, from drug therapy to biological substances and finally to cellular therapies. I think drug development will be shrinked. Synthetic small molecule drugs maybe rather than disturbances. Such changes, disruptive innovations. Now you can imagine disruptive innovation defined by Schumpeter and others is now ongoing. We are living in the turning point of healthcare, in particular, treatment of disease. Professor Yan said that from precision medicine to precision health. I think so too. This schema shows the feature of disruptive innovation. We are here now. It's a real turning point, theory of treatment and development of drugs. Based on such background, with understanding of science and technology and changing world, we have built our institute in 2002 by support our government, Ministry of Education, Science, Technology. We called Translational Research Center. First, we called Translational Research Informatics Center. Now changed last year when we celebrated the 15 years anniversary. The name of TRI's abbreviation is not changed, but the Translational Research Center for Medical Innovation, we call now. This is very important scheme. This is a grand design of medical innovations. We can draw many, many thoughts and methods from this schema. Our enterprise is based on this clinical trial principles. In other words, this dynamism is said to be central dogma of medical innovation. I dare say, this is the central dogma of medical innovation. From abundant, the left side, from abundant research sources of basic science, biology, histology, special emphasis should go to more sophisticated, newer technology. This is very important point of technology to carry out the science. This is a high-resolution live imaging. You can see right now mitochondria's behavior, not only cells. When look at the behavior of cells, single cell or interaction with other cells, in your live imaging apparatus, that totally change the world of human body, living organisms. So we can now, based on high resolution live imaging technology, we can change whole things of the concept of lives. We can now live from molecular biology or biochemical thinking way. Look at the cell behavior as it is. This is the starting point. This technology will totally change the immunology, molecular biology, and genomics and proteomics next few years. From the huge pool of biological data, we can get ideas of newer treatment of diagnostic techniques, which are so-called product candidate or Cs for R&D, research and development. Based on rigorous basic research, we intend to translate such results to clinical application and design translational research. Two steps are critical for research and development. Principles of R&D, optimal methodology will be present on another occasion today, but today TR is defined typically first in human trial as a core, but overall TR is further broad and deeper concept of science, and it should be noted that this is the first step regulatory science. So if you carry out translational research and make product for patient benefit, first you have to discuss with regulatory agency. Really, the research and translational research is gets the exit or gets approval by regulatory agency and spread in market. In other words, strictly adhere to the law which govern R&D under supervision by regulatory authority, such as FDA in United States, PMDA Japan, and also equivalent to Taiwan FDA. So right now, PMDA opened very kind services for academic sectors since 2013. So that in Japan, that translational research was strongly encouraged and accelerated. Today, I do not talk detail, but during past 12 years, more than 60 academia-originated products are now in market, including regenerative medicine. I will talk about this followingly. When the first in-human trial is successfully completed in terms of the safety is confirmed by the phase 1 trial, then efficacy study using appropriate endpoint is conducted. Presently, phase 1-2 design, in which simultaneously we evaluate both safety and clinical effect in the first trial, is encouraged, particularly in biologics, of course, cellular treatment. The design of early phase clinical trial, that is, again, I say, first in human trial, is critical in clinical development of drugs and devices. Someone says TR steps is a kind of death valley. No, it is not true. Death valley is a kind of illusion which will be made when you wish to accelerate patient accrual quickly. Then you loosen the eligibility criteria, patient selection criteria, and then the statistical significance dropping down, and you cannot prove the hypothesis. For accelerate patient accrual, you need, look at the yellow points, you need real-time registry of patients with the target diseases is strongly encouraged. So now our ARO moving to set up to complete this disease-specific registry. Then we can enroll completely. If we move to real-time systems, then realistically, we can accrue patients very quickly. Within 1 month is not dream. In 2003, our translational research for medical innovation was built by the government, Ministry of Education, Culture, Science, Technology, Sports. We abbreviate MEXT. TRI constitutes of 2 institutes. One is Health Data Center, and one is Medical Innovation. We reformed this style last year. TRI provides 2 domains of services. For medical innovation, the right side, R&D strategy, and left side and right side, we provide data center services for clinical trial studies and cohort studies and population studies. Last year, TRI celebrated 15 years anniversary. We started as data center services since 2003, I said, with only few members. But now TRI personnel number reaches 100. And we are now in the stage of harvesting of our achievement, like this slide. The day before yesterday, August 1st, Ministry of Health and Welfare announces at last that eardrum regenerative medicine based on tissue engineering technology was approved. Now we have 3 products, academia originated regenerative medicine or device, and forthcoming products will be corneal regeneration and bone regeneration, cartilage, and blood vessels. Then dementia and prostate cancer and colon cancers and also atherosclerosis are the target of our trials. Last year, TRI celebrated 15 years, I mentioned, and we collaborated with Nature and provide TRI advances in our homepage. Please look at our homepage, and this is the first topic. We focused on stem cell therapy for spinal cord injury. So this is an example of Nature Outline series we sponsored for this articles. Beside of our own homepage, TRI Advances, we sponsored special articles of Nature Outlook and Outlines. All of them are undergoing registration clinical trial, and some of them are now get approval from PMDA, and one is on market. Or other other regenerative medicine will be finished very recently, very near future, in registration clinical trials. So this is third one, eardrum regeneration. It is very easy to understand what is the technology. There is cartoon and only 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes, within 3 minutes. So access these URL and look at the cartoon. And now, next topic is ulcerative colitis and liver cirrhosis. And now we are preparing prostate cancers. So easy to understand the cutting edge of science and technology. So I can say first round of regenerative medicine development has been completed as summarized in this slide. So already the regeneration of nervous system is approved. And second, earderm regeneration is also approved. And forthcoming, the blood vessel, bone, cornea, and cartilage, as I mentioned. So today, I would like to discuss detail based on our articles. So now move on the next slide. Explore the life, living organism as it is, as I said, and also explore the human as it is. Scientists explore the world, nature as it is, but it is very, very difficult task, I said. In this chapter, I would like to talk about philosophical aspects of life science and clinical sciences. You believe what you see. As I mentioned, the conception is totally depending on your feeling and sensing. So science is restricted by the methodology we use. So I emphasize the high resolution live imaging is critical to understand life or living organism is as it is. Our knowledge, therefore, our knowledge is totally limited. This slide shows the group blindness evaluation, far from as it is. Let's think more deeply about scientific procedure, steps, recognition, always under restraint by individual perception and knowledge and philosophy. In other words, methodology, measurement, techniques. So science is preoccupied with inductive inference. This is the term of philosophy as experimental science. Inductive inference, we make hypothesis or theory and deduce from this theory, look again things, natures, life, living organism, and explain the nature based on the hypothesis. We believe this is as it is. But this is just hypothesis. So to gain insight deeply, in particular, understanding the life, understanding AI, humanity, biological principles derived from research axiomatic systems, deduction and induction. This is a paradigm of knowledge or thinking or perception or understanding. So look at this. From deduction, we look at future and predict. If we gather all factors and all conditions and understand the relationships and cause and effect, then we can predict the futures. Now, many AI researchers challenging this prediction. Many years ago, Laplace, the mathematician, said like this. So there is there we call Laplace's daemon. But the world, it is stochastic, probabilistic. So entropy is going up, always going up. If we can manipulate all factors, molecules, then entropy can be down. It's called Maxwell's daemon. So deterministic or mechanistic thinking or stochastic thinking. This is very important points. Based on the knowledge and paradigms, we explain the phenomenon and predict what shall be happen. We have to conscious about logics, deterministic or stochastics, as I mentioned. When you can identify all factors which involved in the mechanism and phenomenon and describes conditions and interactions, as I said, all of them, you can predict what happens in the next. Do you think so? And how is it, or can control everything? How do you think? This is typically Newtonian thoughts on Descartes' thoughts, determinism. Next slide. This slide implies very important thoughts of principles of biology and clinical science. Based on epistemology, the theory of knowledge, phenomenalism and substantialism and essentialism. The most essential question toward life or living organism of human is origin, evolution of species, proposed by Darwin, and life expand. Yesterday, Mr. Professor session, I discussed this with a group students. Life span, life duration is a mystery. And we are facing at this challenge right now, aging population in every country. And next, third most mysterious thing is consciousness. Consciousness. So we think deeply about consciousness of life and living organisms and also AIs. So the most simple question is AI or robots emerge consciousness, and if so, what's happened next? Our essential questions of science focusing on these three. But we can make insight the basic principles which govern life, living organisms are those 7 axioms. Ideas say, using the mathematical word, axiom, axiomatic system. Integrity, first, and homeostasis, second. Third, self-organization, and scaffold. In physical words, a field. And very, very biological phenomenon, symbiosis. The human body, living organism, all a symbiotic system of many cells, and rhythms and resonance and synchronization. This is a kind of integrity and homeostasis. And symmetry. This philosophical conception can lead you to more clear understanding of life and living organism and human phenomenology and substantialism and what is the essential principles. Next, I would like to apply epistemological understanding to diagnosis, treatment, and clinical trial design. First is phenomenalism, symptomatic diagnosis. And then, using microscopy and other tools, we can get substantialism, pathological, and finally genetical. And we can explain pathogenesis by genomics or proteomics. Then we can reach etiological understanding of the disease, what happened in human body. And then treatment, if the symptomatic diagnosis, then we can only develop symptomatic control. But when understand genetical or essentialistic etiological understanding, then we can develop event control. So that clinical trial design shift from surrogate endpoint to true endpoint. Always we mistake when we took surrogate endpoint in our clinical trial design. This is a lesson from long history of drug evaluation. When we look at the approaches, we can also classify phenomenalism and substantialism and essentialism. Phenomenalism we can describe by statistics, probabilistic or stochastic, and now moving to deterministic, based on we call precision medicine. So first we analyze the living organism and dividing the factors and substances. Now we can integrate all essence of knowledges. So the understanding of living organisms from mechanistic to holistic, now using AIs. So now move on. Today's important topic, stem cell medical revolution. It's a new paradigm of medicine using the essence of natural healing forces. Everybody have this healing force. Autologous or allogeneic stem cell can derive from bone marrow, adipose tissue, or connective tissue, or others. This is a totally new conception of disease control. Regenerative homeostasis failure is a newer conception of disease, indicates to majority of intractable diseases. So there will be paradigm change of drug discovery and development. It's really Copernican revolution. So I would like to introduce biological principles of tissue regeneration in the body. Stem cell, which play a major role in tissue repairing regeneration, are widely distributed over the body tissue. When you check the biology textbook of high school, you can see planaria or other very strong potential of regeneration, you see. Please look at the planaria. But the same thing in human, but rigorously controlled. So many tissues, stem cells which play major role in tissue repairing regeneration. This is a very important point. distributed all bodies. And it was preserved through the process of long evolutions. Long evolutions. This is a very important point. So, stem cells, not only stem cells, but also all cells, storing the knowledge which get in their long evolution histories. Stem cell is naturally existing in the blood. 100 cells per 100 microliters, circulating the whole body every day, every time, and serving turnover the tissue cells, repairing and regeneration of tissues. So this is the process of cell behavior. When some tissue are damaged tissue, damaged cell announces all bodies, help me. It's signaling. Stem cell catch the signals from the damaged tissue through bloodstream. Then perception. Stem cells are mobilized to blood flow, mobilization. Stem cells are homing to the damaged area, or homing. Stem cells perform repair conditioning of the required conditioning of the damaged area, conditioning. Triage dying cells and survive cells, eliminate the former, and protect, rescue the latter cells, suppressing inflammation. This is now we can understand the aspects. Macrophage 1 to macrophage 2 conversion. Control permeability of microvascular, reconstruct, regenerate microvascular architecture, and supply, again, oxygen and nutrition and glucose to damaged tissue. And then damaged tissue recover, if the potential. Then regeneration regenerative process begins, repairing regeneration. This is the cellular process, and you can see these details using high-resolution microscopic observation. When the tissue damage is massively and beyond natural healing capacity, the insufficient number of stem cells, which is mobilized as a natural process, then reinfusion of expanded stem cells derived from autologous bone marrow or from harvest circulating stem cells helps the process of tissue regeneration as natural healing automatic processes. I summarized in this slide. Always our body, our tissue, our cells facing at the attack, microbes, injury, or degeneration, prionoid, infects, neoplasm invasion, cell damage, necrosis. So damaged cell make message to all human body areas. Help me, signaling. And stem cell perceive these signals and goes to damaged site. So you can see stem cell regenerative function and innate immunity, macrophage and others, innate immunity. This is coupled. And clearance and reconstruction is coupled. So look at both sides. And we can describe cellular level or exosome level or cytokine or others as an molecular biology did. Now, exosome, mitochondria, or SDF1, CXCR4, S1P or S1PR, or HMGB1. Like this is a regenerative axis, molecular axis. So now we can say first round of regenerative medicine clinical development is finished. Disruptive innovation phase is now closing. Now we are moving to second phase. The first round is biological principle of tissue generation. This is a cellular regeneration process now unveiled and now utilized. Now move on the detail about the results from clinical clinical trials of regenerative medicine. Just now I'm preparing the book, The Principles of Regenerative Medicine, constituted of 6 chapters. I made a reprint and delivered this copy for you all. The regenerative medicine has 2 domains: cellular therapy, usually stem therapy we call, and tissue engineering. We would like to present 3 examples. Professor Homo's development. This is CD105 cell therapies for nervous system first. And Minatoguchi and Dezawa's invention. This is called Muse cells. This is a part of 105. SSES3 positive cells we call Muse, designated by Professor Dezawa. He is discoverer of this category of cells. This is applied to myocardial infarction and stroke and other disorders, and spinal cord injury also. Now, registration clinical trials ongoing. The third is CD34 cells for vascular obstruction, critical limb ischemia. As I mentioned, the whole tissues are symbiotic systems. It's make a kind of society, cellular society. Always each cells are communicating. Very, very meticulous and very reasonable communications. So I have to back this slide. So multicellular symbiotic system, I said, all tissues composed of different cells, vascularity, lymphatics, and nervous system, and parenchymal cells. These cells, these symbiotic system always think maintaining homeostasis that inherits self-preserving ability. Self-preserving ability. In particularly in cancer, this preserving activity is the point of understanding with these paradigms. So when we look at the nervous system, you learn by histology. Nervous system is not only made up with neurons. Many other cells, glial cells, vascular, and in brain, in nervous system, there is no lymphatic in the past, but now it was found. So other stream, it is called stromal stream. This is very important function of nervous system. It eliminates A beta 2 or other depositing prionoids. And in the nervous system, the vascular is quite different from others. You so-called blood-brain barriers. But blood-brain barriers constitute of endothelial cells, vascular cells, and this vascular system covered by pericytes. This is very mysterious architecture. And to pericytes, astrocytes are touching. So we can easily understand when we remind that axioms, integrity, how this integrity is regulated. And so we call neural system as neurovascular unit. So all such kind of vascular and parenchymal cells and pericytes architecture is very important. This is microanatomy, not just the light microscopic observation of histology. This concept is very important. So if we have to regenerate neurons, we have to reconstruct the architecture, this fine architecture of neurovascular unit. So there is glial cells surrounding neurons, astrocytes and microglias and oligodendroglias. These cells functions of their own purposes. So based on such insights, Professor Homo at last discovered bone marrow stem cell, mesenchymal stem cell is useful to treat neural damages. He looked at the spinal cord injury and infused CD105 stem cells intravascularly based on the principles I mentioned. So first he tried this method for strokes. After injection of stem cells cultured 2 or 3 weeks, the lesion disappears and the function recovered very quickly. This paper is published in Brain 2011. And at last, last year, November 21st, Ministry of Health and Welfare announced the Stemirac, the brand name of the stem cell therapy preparation, is approved. This is a package insert. You can see easily by your computer or iPhones. This is the results. This is the summary basis of approval, the report of review of the products. And here you can see this table in the summary basis approval. In the spinal cord injury, we divide the severity stage Asian score. We call the Asian score. A is complete paralysis, B is partial, and C is rather rather mild. That all of the patients included in this trial recovered within 6 months like this. Asian score from A to C or B to C, D, C to D. When we compare historical control, which is published in guidelines of spinal cord injury, the recovery rate from Asian score A to C, B, C, D is only 17%, and C to B to C or D is 49%, 50%, and C to D is 70%. So when we look at the results, which is published in summary basis of approval for Asian score, it is very clear. So actually, this trial was early terminated because all patients recovered at least 1 degree. So the first time this trial was designed, exploratory single-arm trial, but the PMDA checked the results and requested early termination and early approval. Right now, the trial is expanding to chronic cerebral chronic infarction and chronic spinal cord injury and Alzheimer's diseases. So we tried a mononuclear cell and same mesenchymal stem cells for spinal cord injury. This is a paper by our own. We tried this for 5 patients, but we could not observe any recovery from Asian score A, but and B and C is quickly recovered by our preparation. But Professor Homo accomplished total recovery. When we use mononuclear cells, very easy procedure. We do not carry out cultures. In this preparation, we can see some degree of improvement. But we need, in this preparation, Vietnam, you know, traffic rule allows 3 people can be on the 3 or 4 people can be on the bicycle on the autobike, or so many children drop down from the autobike, so that spinal cord injury, many people suffering. So we transferred our technology to Da Nang Hospital 2012 and negotiated with Vietnam Ministry of Health and Welfare, and we at last opened the trial, and now the patient accrual reached 17. In this slide, I summarized 11 patients. In this trial, many people recovering. So we need next step, randomized control trial. This is Professor Minatoguchi and Dezawa. They published the Muse Cells book from Springer. And this is a procedure very similar to other cellular therapies. Harvest SSES3 positive cells called Muse cells and reinfuse to patients. This is not autologous, but allogeneic, because this cell is immunotolerant. Very, very unique cells. So SSES3 is quite carefully used, because the activity of binding to SSES3 is different from lot by lot. Okay. And next, critical limb ischemia using CD34 cells. We conducted randomized trials with using mononuclear cell harvested from patients' own. And unfortunately, we cannot reach the target number of patients accrual, but the results is marginally statistically significant. And the cellular therapy using mononuclear cell harvested from patients is the result was superior when we look at the amputation-free survivors. And when we analyze the preparation, CD34 cell number is the prognostic factor we published in this paper. And so the rationale of CD34, based on the rationale CD34, we prepared CD34 from patient peripheral blood and tried efficacy. Again, that's very similar to Asian score. This is Fontaine score for critical limb ischemia. Fontaine 3 and 4 recover to 103, 102. 80% patients recovering from critical limb ischemia. And this is the same case in the patient, chronic kidney disease under dialysis, also recover from critical limb ischemia phase. Then we can go up next step using fibroblast growth factor mixed with atherosclerogen. Within 1 year, within half year, all patients vanished leg pain. Now move on next, tissue engineering. Professor Kuroda invented atherosclerogen and CD34 mixture for non-union bone fracture patients. And harvest is very similarly to Dr. Kawamoto's preparation using Clinimax after apheresis and CD34 enriched preparation, and mixed with atherosclerogen. Atherosclerogen is already in market, so it's quite easy. And inject to bone fracture site unhealed. Next, corneal repair. She is Professor Sotozono. She and his teacher, Professor Kinoshita, invented buccal membrane regenerative use for corneal damage. Buccal membrane and culture and make a seed and transplant damaged eyes by Stevens-Johnson syndrome or others. And finally, eardrum regeneration by Dr. Kahneman. Here's a very clear-cut results. Now this procedure, this is very simple. Basic FGF and gelatin sponge packed on the hole of the eardrum, and then heal naturally. And this is the clinical trials .government, the registration of clinical trials by Harvard group. The clinical trials now reach finishing. So, as I mentioned, that innovation from disruptive innovation to continuous innovation by Christensen says that cell-free, cell processing free, or one-step preparation. The second round, definitely, clarification of molecular basis, exosome, microRNA, and etc. So biological molecular basis principle concerning tissue generation and establishing its utilization, the second phase. Then next step, what should be done? The next mission is dissemination of such definitive treatment all over the world. Patients is waiting. And this is a very important point. Strategic investment and initiative by the government to create an overall infrastructure to provide regenerative medicine and further development is critical. Then we can reduce dramatic number of disability or bedridden and global expansion. So within 5 years, if the right investment at the right side, right place, right person, then we can achieve this goal, reduction of social burden. Now, as Professor Yang mentioned, and now we are moving to make a worldwide network of academic research organization network. So we conduct Taiwan, Japan AR workshop as an flag workshop. Then actually next year, next September, we will fifth workshop. We will have fifth workshop at Sendai, focusing on big data analysis and cancer clinical trial network with Taiwan and Japan. So then we make disease-specific consortium worldwide. We can accelerate the medical innovation based on that central dogma I presented. So I strongly encourage all our colleagues get the ECLIN data center certification. Already we got. This is the first outside of Europe. And AHAP accreditation by United States, and implement CDISC standards, all clinical trial and studies. Now I can arrive in the final slide. This is philosopher, Spanish philosopher Ortega say, science is academia's soul and spirit. You all engage in the world and stay at the height of philosophy of the era. Our final goal is total disease control. Now it's possible in our lifespan. So the points are most important of the management science for science. Academic freedom should be respected, but now we can manage science strategically, maybe use AI, and look at all things as it is. Look at the life and cells and tissues and damaged cells under high-resolution microscopic observation. We can see living cells and what's happened in the cell, intracell. So please see high resolution microscopic. Even you can see mitochondrial behavior. So mitochondrial behavior may determine the cell fate, living or dying. Thank you for your attention.
Question from the audience or the student? Yes, please.
Check. My question is about biomimics. As we know that there are lots of animals have strong potential regenerative ability, such as octopus, starfish, etc. What we have learned or we want to learn from these animals?
Biomimics.
So animal healing process?
The animal healing process from the animal?
Yeah. They're
learning
regenerative.
from nature?
Yeah.
So, because human is one of the animals, so human at last emerged from long evolutionary stages. So even consciousness you can understand the bird or fish, of course, rather have it. Then we have to think cells have the conscious. This is very surprising thinking, but if we define the unit of conscious, the definition of the conscious is open the new science. I think so. But your question is, we can learn a lot of things from amoeba or single cells and Borbox and Planaria and Euglena or other level of animals or plants. So we can understand the principles which rules the regeneration. Regeneration is coupling with clearance of dying cells, the damaging cells. This is very, very automatically happens. So the people, all people, remain the shape and image of the baby, when the baby. So this is the homeostasis and the integrity of the morphology. So this principle must be the basis of all animals, I believe.
Thank you.
Okay, another question.
Professor, because I'm studying like stem cells, and I have a few stem cells question, and maybe that's because I have lack knowledge. Okay, so I have a question. Is that in your presentation you have tell that like the nervous regeneration and such as like the limb ischemia regeneration, and you have choose like CD105 and CD34 plus positive, but because I'm doing on rat and we choose the mesenchymal stem cell by the attachment of the culture dish. And why do you choose like using those markers and not like the attachment of culture dish?
CD105 is positive cells, a kind of definition of mesenchymal stem cells. Yes. And CD34 positive cells is a so-called hematopoietic stem cells. And the first Professor Asano discovered CD34 positive cells regenerate vascular angiogenetic activity. He described the paper in Science. And after that, his student, Asahara's student, Dr. Kawamoto, developed CD34 therapies.
Yeah, I think the CD34, these kind of markers are very accepted standard marker for the hematopoietic stem cells in the cellular cells. So if you choose a touch cell, that probably more heterogeneous.
Yes, heterogeneous. So even CD34 positive cell you harvest it, but there's many other cells, and we have to be very careful, because if you culture such cells, the culture condition is different, then cell expression different and behave differently.
Yes, it needs a very tight will control system to harvest these stem cells.
Yeah, so I would like to recommend you to not only check the paper, but the patent, if it is already open, described more detail about the characteristics of the cells. Without review of a patent, or the research or experiment is defective maybe. and there is know-how. So such a very important know-how is not opened. For example, so harvesting, the process is very, very carefully you should do. Yeah. If you use heparins or citrate for blocking the clotting, then everything is changed. This is a very important point.
Yes. Okay. Any other question? The final one? Yes.
Testing. Professor, I would like to ask about, because to me, one of the major challenges in regenerative medicine is that the cell takes time to grow into an appropriate size so that it can replace the damaged tissue. So how do we accelerate its growth when we are really culturing in maybe laboratory?
So natural is best. So what is the natural? Most resembling or equal to the body in intermediate or in internal environment. So Professor Homo used autologous serums. Without serum, the culture cells grow very slow. So you add albumin or fetal calf serum or something like that. But in human, for human, autologous, patient's own serum is best, he find. So there's many biological factors, substances, or vitamins. But you have to carefully that change of characteristics of cells. So before discussing that, you have to establish the assay. What type of cell you need? If you establish the assay system to identify the cells, this is very important point from regulatory science. You need formula of the cell. CD105 positive, SSEA3 positive, and CD34 negative, something like that. So you must define which cell you need. So it's sometimes a question of egg or chicken, which is the first. Yeah. But it's spirally developing. Yeah. Very careful experiment you need.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Professor Fukushima.